From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One ball, corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, Seminole softball in the national semifinals, a weekend wrap-up of the recruiting that was, and one last question that we didn't get you from the Renegade Express. Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida, 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. Daily lunch specials, weekdays, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Mondays, build your own hamburger. You build it in terms of like you spec it out. They'll do it all for you in the back. It'll be delicious. It'll be a half-pound Black Angus beef burger. Comes with a side dish of your choice, again, for only $8.99 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. And don't forget, tomorrow, Tuesday, that is trivia night over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Go check it out. Win some house cash. Put your name on the plaque next to Corey Clark if you're lucky. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. What do we got cooking over there right now, Corey? I should have had this up and ready, but my screens are all over the place right now. I think we got another $1 special going right now. If you're a new subscriber, if you sign up right now for $1, it'll take you all the way up until kickoff, or you can sign up right now for an entire year, if I'm not mistaken, for half price.
Correct.
So, I mean, do it, everybody.
I don't know why you wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. You're going to, trust me, in August, well, you want it all the time. Yep. But in August, when practice starts and we're able to watch practice and give you all the detail, all the deets, you're going to want to know what's going on, and you can get all that for $1. And then if right at kickoff, you're like, you know what? I don't want to waste another $1, or I don't want to pay full price for this because I don't care about quality. Then go ahead and bounce. We don't want you. But until then, you get to read it all for $1, folks. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah. And then again, it'll be $49.99 for a full year subscription. That's 50% off. You don't need any sort of promo code. Just go to warchant.com if you're a first-time subscriber and go ahead and join us. It's fun. And hit the thumbs up if you don't want to do that, or maybe leave us a 5-star Reagan review. Corey Clark, how are you, man?
I'm good, buddy. I'm good. Had a solid weekend. Did a little golfing.
I heard.
That was fun. Played well for me. I played pretty well. Made some putts.
Of course.
Really choked at the end, honestly. Capital City.
Nice.
And really choked at the end. We were playing match play. It was me and actually a teacher that taught Stephanie's son. We were on a team together, and it was Stephanie and Tom Lang on the other team, and we were playing match play. So they were up 2 with 3 to play, and they missed like a 5-foot par putt to give us the hole. So now they're only up 1 with 2 to play. And it's that 17 on Cap City. I hit the best drive of my life. I don't ever hit them like this. I got lucky with the roll, but it rolled down to about 10 feet in front of the little water area. You remember 17, right, Aslan?
Oh, yeah, we own that.
That's where you had your 70-foot putt. Yeah. And so I'm in perfect position. They're not. We're laying 1 right where they're laying 2. It takes them 2 shots to get to where we are. All we got to do is get it up and down in 3 shots from right in front, like 40 feet away, 50. Well, I shouldn't say that, 40 yards away. I don't hit a great approach. The teacher doesn't either. His name's Jason, by the way. And then I just completely choke on the putt. It was I would say it was about a 20-foot putt, 25-foot putt, a little bit off the green. That I hit probably 12 feet. That really, really bothered me. That still bothers me as I'm talking about it. So they ended up winning 1-up. But it was a lot of fun. Great Saturday. I hope everybody else got to go out and have fun this weekend and enjoy the weather.
All right. Well said. Thanks, said.
Buddy.
We enjoyed Saturday watching Florida State take out Washington in the winners bracket over in the Women's College World Series, Oklahoma City. So Florida State now will play today, right? 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock. We're recording this before the opponent has been determined.
Yeah. So they able to make it past Washington. Maybe not their greatest performance, Florida State, but again, man, they're figuring out ways to win. You know, they ruled Oklahoma State in the first game. Washington was a little bit more of a gritty effort, I guess you will say. And it was capped off once again with another iconic double play. I don't know, man. Oklahoma looks really good, man. I don't even know if we almost have to just kind of separate. And you were joking Saturday about, everyone's playing for second. if Florida State can keep pitching and playing defense like this, I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe that actually is your equalizer, but just a really great win against, I think, a pretty solid Washington team. I thought they looked really good in their opening round win. I feel good about where Florida State's at right now, man, all things considered.
Okay. All right, buddy. And what the joke was, if you just get to the championship series, considering the juggernaut that's on the other side, and they're playing in front of 12,000 or 15,000 of their own fans, if you just get to the championship series, you deserve like some sort of prize, not just a runner-up trophy, but a asterisk or something. Like I don't know, man. This Oklahoma team has won 50 games in a row now. They haven't been scored on in 2 games in Oklahoma City. They've had 1 close game, 2 close games probably in the last month. But anyway, the point being, just getting there would be such an accomplishment. In any other year, you would have a real shot at maybe winning the whole thing. But this team appears to be an incredible juggernaut where they would have to lose. You'd have to beat them twice when they've lost once all season. But hey, it can happen. Yeah. And Florida State probably is the best equipped to do it. And the reason I say that is because you brought it up, Aslan. I don't know how much we're going to dive into the inside softball of that game, but Florida State was sloppy in that game. Yeah. They didn't play up to their normal standard. Mudge throws the ball to second inexplicably, allowing a run to score. That was the only run they had. That was the only run they scored. Horrible base running in the last inning twice. Like, you hit a ball. I mean, I get that you thought the girl caught it, but there's no reason to just be running back with your head down towards first. They almost pass each other on the bases. It should have been second, third, and 1 out. Instead, it's first and second. And then right after that, Bethany Keene, who had a great hit, Muffley rips one to right field, like a line drive shot. But you've played the sport. Like, don't assume that that's just down. Like, how do you not take a peek and see, oh, yeah, the right fielder's right there. Maybe I need to slow down a bit. Because that was just inexplicable. And you could tell by Kelly Rafter, she's the first base coach, her reaction was kind of like, what are you doing? But you just take off. Like, you forgot there's a right fielder out there, that it might potentially be caught. It was only trumped by the horrible base running of Washington. Like, Muffley made an incredible play, right? Like, that's a really great play. But where's the girl going? The girl at second for Washington. The point being, she's not the tying run. And Florida State is using a shortstop that inning. There is a shortstop on the team. She's somewhere to your right, probably playing near the grass. That ball is hit, but it's not an absolute no doubt base hit. So where are you going? Even if you score, your team is still down. I get that you're in a hurry, but man, have a little softball IQ and some awareness. Going that far from the bag was nuts. It was different than the Warren play, the Jesse Warren play from 5 years ago, because that bunt that girl laid down in that game, or tried to lay down, actually didn't get there. That's on the ground 99% of the time. You're thinking, okay, well that's down. I got to get to second so they don't throw me out. She just made an incredible play. This was a great play by Muffley, but I don't know why you're running. But hey, you know what? Like I always say, this isn't Wake Up Huskies. You know what I mean? We're not here to talk about Washington softball. But the point being, I thought that that Florida State had some really sloppy stuff. Harding striking out with the bases loaded on a pitch above her head, some bad base running, some not great fielding moments, and they still found a way to win 3-1. And I didn't think Sandercock was at her best.
And Mac Leonard's still not bringing a lot at the plate either.
Right. She had a bunt that turned into a pretty big play in that game, but that was a sac bunt. But when you think about Sandercock, I think only had 1 strikeout in 5 2/3 innings. And now, look, she's not a strikeout pitcher necessarily, but it wasn't all ground balls either. She was giving up some fly balls, which she doesn't do. But she's so good that against literally one of the best teams in the country, with, I would say, maybe her B stuff, she gives up 1 run in basically 6 innings. And the 1 run she gave up was because Mudge inexplicably threw it to second instead of holding the girl at third base. I mean, it was just that kind of gives you some hope that, okay, they just won a really important game where they didn't play all that well offensively or defensively, and they ran the bases comically in that last inning, and they still found a way to win. So when they put it all together, not only can they get to the championship series, which whoever they play has to beat them twice, but maybe they can really challenge Oklahoma like they did 2 years ago. Because not only did they win the first game against Oklahoma 2 years ago, they had the lead late in the second game, like the fifth inning. So yeah, I think Florida State's probably best equipped to give the Sooners an actual game, or an actual series, I should say.
Kat bringing her quote unquote B game. How much of that do we think is fatigue, or is it the fact that she didn't start? Like she kind of got thrust into, I mean, I know she's always ready to go in there, but that's not her natural kind of habitat, if you will, because things are going to start obviously getting much more condensed here as we look at the bracket. Again, Florida State will play the winner of Oklahoma State, Tennessee, which you all know by now, but again, we're recording this beforehand. So, because they change up the losers bracket and yada, yada, whatever. So they would play 7:00 tonight. And if they don't win that game, they'd have to turn around, play again, same night for the chance to go to the championship series. So, I mean, you'd be playing on Wednesday.
Same night. They'd play on, you mean they play on Tuesday, or they'd play on?
No, it's 2 games, man. Tomorrow or today they'll play 4 games if necessary. Oklahoma will play Stanford, Washington. And if they lose that game, they'll turn around and they'll play right after that.
Oh, so they would play a doubleheader tonight if they lost the first one.
Correct.
Okay.
And then you'd have to turn around and play on Wednesday. So it's obviously crucial to get the first 2 wins out there in Oklahoma City. Feels like, man, they obviously did that. I just wonder, like, is Kat wearing down maybe at this point of the season? Do we just think it was kind of just a wonky little night because she had to come in relief against a really good team, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, again, Lonnie's done such a good job of limiting her innings and pitches this year compared to what had happened the last few years. I don't think so. I think more than anything, it might have been. Kat even said it after the game when she was asked about it. She's like, it is more challenging. It is difficult to come in the middle of the game because you don't get a feel of the strike zone. You don't get a feel of your pitches as well if you come in with a runner on base in the middle of a game. But, Lonnie said that she was just trying to steal some outs. That's why she started McKenna Reed. McKenna pitched, I guess, got 1 1/3 innings, gave up a walk and a hit. And then the hit she gave up in the second was like a little bloop hit. And then Lonnie just wasn't taking any chances. So she brought in Kat after that. But I think you'll see, I mean, I don't know. And I don't know that Lonnie would even tip her hand, even if we talk to her on Sunday, I think you will see somebody other than Sandercock start. If we're just going by how she's coached in the postseason already. Remember, Sandercock didn't pitch at all in the first game against South Carolina,
right,
and then came back and threw a perfect game. So that will probably, I would think, be their MO, is that you've got this staff for a reason. Let them pitch the first game. If you have a chance to close it out, if you're up 3-1 in the fifth, then you bring in Sandercock. If not, you have her ready to go for game 2. Again, like I said, when they did it the first time, I would go ahead and pitch my best to get it over with. That first game when there's not so much pressure and you've got the better pitcher. But I get the reasoning. And as Lonnie said after the win on Saturday night, it's like we're going to need McKenna Reed if we're going to do what we want to do here. Like they basically saying we can't pitch Sandercock every inning. Like right now, I think she's pitched all but 2 1/3 innings since they've been out there. Of the 13 innings they pitched, the 13 innings they played, she's pitched 10 2/3 of them. They don't want to keep that percentage up. So I do expect them to pitch other pitchers on Monday night, the first game. But, especially because it's a doubleheader, you're not getting that much more rest. Like it's a couple hours rest. I would go ahead and try to knock it out and win the first game. But again, Lonnie's much smarter than me and much richer than me. She's had a good life, old Lonnie.
That she has. We'll talk football here in a minute with Michael Langston, as well as some other thoughts across the country when it comes to football. But let's tip our caps to our good friends over at Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code is Warchant BOGO, BOGO. Add an item in your bag over on VitaminEnergy.com. Use the promo code Warchant BOGO. You'll get an item of equal or lesser value for absolutely free. We're talking about energy with benefits, everybody. Energy that lasts you 7 hours or more in a shot that's not even 2 full ounces. You can take it anywhere with you. I've been actually putting my shots in the fridge, Corey. Tastes even that much better. A little chill, not necessarily on ice. Don't want to dilute it. A little chill in the palate as it gets hotter down here in the South. Powerful energy booster packed with antioxidants, no sugar crash. Tastes great. 0 carbs. So many different varieties. You got the Mood Plus. You got the B12 14,000. You got vitamin D. You got your immune booster, you've got your focus booster, your workout booster. Try them. You'll like it. promise you almost. I could give you that. I wish I could say I'd give you the money back, but how would we do that? I don't know how we'd work out the logistics on that, but maybe one day we'll figure it out. But you go
How
to
about you have our word. You have
Yeah.
our word, gang.
Yeah.
And what more do you want than our word?
the Clark and Hudgevandy word, folks. It takes you long places. VitaminEnergy.com. Again, promo code is Warchant BOGO. Michael Langston, Talking Recruiting, coming up right after this. Anyhow, Michael, let's start this off, man. 6 dudes on campus this weekend. Big weekend as we get this month of June started. Position of need, linebacker, feels like Groundhog Day. We've been probably saying that, introducing every recruiting video for the last 5 years that we've been doing this together. Edwin Spillman on campus. How big of a sort of moment was this in the recruitment, do you think, of Spillman this week and him being in Tallahassee?
I think it's a big deal for them getting him back on campus, kind of seeing he's had a really good communication relationship with FSU through the process. He visited early in the spring, but he hasn't seen like the real in-depth stuff. So for him to see it today, be around, Randy Shannon, Mike Norvell, and Adam Fuller, and just be around those guys and see what it's like and see what the interaction with the players, I think was a big hit with Edwin, and I think also just what they're going to do and the need they have at linebacker. I think Edwin said today, and you can read the story on the front page that it's a big deal to him for teams that do need linebackers the way FSU covets them. So he sees the opportunity to play there, but he also sees just how comfortable he is with this program and just how comfortable he is with Coach Shan. That's the big takeaway I had was he really you could really see the strength of that relationship with Coach Shanahan. There was certainly a close connection, and certainly said FSU is one of his top schools, and you could really tell that FSU moved the needle in this official visit, and certainly they are definitely one of the teams right near the top, for Edwin after this official visit.
How good is this guy, man? I know he's got the 4 stars by his name, but I feel like this is a guy that you like a lot, Michael.
I like him a lot. I think he's the top target that they have at linebacker. It's a guy that can tackle really good in space, runs really well, laterally downfield runner, closes on the ball, and he's a big hitter. So I think that's some of the things that FSU certainly covets about him. And then see him in person. I mean, he matches the sometimes you don't have guys that match the height and weight with a guy that comes on campus, but for Edwin, he was very filled out, the height and weight checked out, and just really a guy that I think could really help them early on into a season to have an early impact, because physically he's already ready, I think, for the college, to play at college level. And then technique wise, I think certainly he's going to be able to flash in your system if you get a guy that gets off blocks as quickly and as well as what Edwin does. There's still stuff to improve with his game, like cover skills and stuff like that. But when you talk about tackling in space and downhill runner and finishing hits, I think Edwin's checks off every box that FSU would want at that linebacker position.
Heck yeah, man. I don't know if this is being cocky. Offensive tackle, maybe not a position of need as it was at least in years prior. But Nair Daniels out of Bergen Catholic up there in Jersey, heck of a great program up there.
Yeah,
he visited. Just how big of a move could that be in him and Alex Atkins forging a relationship moving into the future, Michael?
Yeah, I felt like Penn State was, for me, the favorite coming in, and then once he left, and then getting the intel and gathering the intel I have so far, I'm still going to gather more. But I think FSU's right, either even or slightly above Penn State now, just because of that visit. The connection with Atkins, as it usually is on these visits, he nailed it as far as just that relationship, and just I think Nair seeing the kind of development that they do, even with the young guys and some transfers, and seeing how quickly these guys are adjusting to the system of what Atkins is doing, I think is a big deal, and really resonated and hit hard and hit very well on this visit for Daniel. So I think they hit on everything I think FSU is looking, which is relationships, and does this kid fit everything that we want in this program? And I think as a guard, which that's where I like Nair at the most, is the guard position. I think he's more so a guard than tackle to me when I watch his film. But mean street guy, finishes very well when you watch a lot of his blocks. very good run blocker. You can see a lot of these clips, just the way he just destroys guys as far as in run blocks and really just drives them out of the play. So I think he's a guy that they like a lot, and it showed the way how much they coveted him this weekend. And I think the feeling and the interest was reciprocated back this weekend of just how well and how comfortable Nair was throughout the whole weekend. So I think certainly is a big step, and I think they set the bar as far as these officials. So I think this is probably his first one, and I think it really set the bar as far as what teams are going to have to do to match what FSU did. They did a lot of unique stuff of not just a lot of it was just outside of football where there was a connection to the people at FSU personally, and I think that's a big deal to a guy like Nair. Everyone knows he's talented, but what are you going to do as far as when things aren't good? And I think he felt very comfortable with everything that he saw at FSU throughout the weekend.
Bro, he is listed in the database at 6'7.5". So let's not chintz him on that half inch.
Yeah.
6'7.5", 371 pounds. How did he look in person, Michael?
Massive. He is a massive kid. Now maybe he ends up playing tackle, but I probably the length and the height leads you to believe maybe tackle, but we'll see. He wasn't really specified to the position yet, but a lot of times this isn't done with Atkins until later on when they get into the meat of stuff. But he's a massive kid. I mean, you see him in person, but it's not like a lot of fat. It's just a big kid. He's a very big kid, and certainly seems to be holding his weight pretty well. I'm sure Atkins would want him to trim down a little bit, but even though he is a big kid, but yeah, the height and weight certainly seem to check out from what I was seeing.
Probably be a really good luxury if you're a running back. If a guy like Nair were to come to Florida State. Running backs, legacies on campus. Christian Clark, big sort of lead, at least in the RPM when it comes to Texas.
Yes.
How much ground do you think Florida State gained in the recruitment of the 4-star running back, 5'11", 195 out of Phoenix?
I mean, he said all the right things, and you could tell the impact that this visit had. You talked about the development of David Johnson, which I wanted to hear more about because he's talked about that with Texas, and he really reiterated how the way David Johnson treats his running backs, of the discipline that they do, both on and off the field, what he's doing with backs where they're averaging 6 yards of carries, and the way they want to use him, which is they want to use him just everywhere, both at running back, but some at the slot, just kind of just a Swift Army knife where they can use him all over the place. They feel like he's that type of player for them. If you were to come to FSU. So he said a lot of the right things. I want to see kind of how he feels a little bit, maybe a week after this visit, because it's the first one, but certainly everything he said was pretty positive. Certainly a positive takeaway. I think FSU did move up as far as where they were trending. I still would lean toward Texas until I hear a little bit more, but I think they definitely are now pretty high up there with the Longhorns, and certainly a school that he feels comfortable that what they're going to do rushing the football. He feels comfortable around Norvell. He feels comfortable around the campus. It's clear he loves it and connects with the people and the type of city that Tallahassee is. I think that really resonates with him. It fits him very well. So we now have to see if this feeling lingers or if it's something where you're coming off a high of a visit. But right now I feel like they're very much in the mix. They have a shot, and that's the best thing I could say about that recruitment right now.
My goodness, he's got some pretty solid tape. Look up his huddle, everybody. Look at the cut he does at the 40-second mark. It's pretty nasty. Nasty.
And somebody was asking me too, like, if they had a chance to get Micaiah Danzy and they got in Christian Clark, both wanted to commit, what would they do? I think they would take both of them. So I think they would take both, for those that are wondering. But certainly a guy they've covered, and the relationships communication has been very strong, even leading up to this official visit. So they have been very much in it, and I think this visit was more to solidify what the program is to Christian, and also the way he's going to be utilized in their offense. I think that it took a big boost up from what it was for last time. It was more like getting to know these guys, what they're like, and and just seeing kind of the ins and outs of the program more so. This is more diving deeper in where you get the specifics of what they're going to use him in different sets and different works, and also just seeing what these coaches are around their players on a daily basis. I don't think he really experienced too much of that, and I think all these things were highly impressed by Clark, and I think they did a great job. And like I said, I think they're very much high in the picture now for Clark.
All name team. We go down to the boot. Wardell Mack. Just feels like a guy you want on your defense, man. 6 foot, 170, 6 foot and a half. Don't want to shortchange our guy. Out of John Ehret High School down there in the boot. 170 pounds, 4-star defensive back. The folks that are listening to this maybe on the podcast can't see. LSU, 95.4% RPM. But, I mean, I don't know. I think at some point our guy down there in Sarasota, that incredibly talented defensive back, like Alabama was in the lead, and Florida State made up some huge ground. So don't get too sad, everybody. Did his eyes open up to what the possibilities could be in Tallahassee if he were to leave the boot there, Michael?
This visit, I'll be honest, it really surprised me how much he liked it. And this is both after what Wardell told me in the interview, and then too, some stuff when I checked from my FSU intel, what they and they are. I know it says 95%, guys, but they are very much a threat in this recruitment. Now, I'll believe it when I see it because I'm skeptical when it comes to DBs, that LSU recruits that are from the boot. But I think they made a big move. I think they made a big move here, and I think there's a lot of things to have here. One, there's a lot of kids that are on this team that he's tight with, that he knows, like Destin Hill, Greedy Vance. I'm sure he probably knows Keon Coleman, who's also from Louisiana, although he told me he mainly hung out with Hill and Greedy Vance. But the familiarity and being comfortable with that. And then the other thing is he's very tight with Sertain. Sertain's obviously from New Orleans. That's where he's born and raised. So I think there's a great connection with a lot of different people there. And I think, too, just he loves the brotherhood that he sees at FSU, and he sees what these guys, the way they work, every day, the way they work, and they want to be a top team, and they're not there yet, but he sees what they're doing, and I think he's very excited about what they're building at FSU, and that really resonated with him. And not every kid just wants to go to Alabama or LSU or Georgia and just be a part of a elite team. Some guys, it resonates more with guys that can see a team building towards that top 10 and top 5 status. And I think FSU made a probably a little bit of surprising bigger move than I thought as far as in this recruitment. And I think they're certainly a threat in this race. Now, it's not going to be easy because this is just the first official visit, but goes back to what I said earlier with the first official visitor is, when you set the bar, I think on official visits, I think you either want to be the first visit or the last one. If you're first, you could set the bar, and sometimes people just cannot match what you did, as far as the rest of the visits, because all of them are kind of familiar and seem the same, because you're getting wine and dine, you're doing all these things, you're seeing nice facilities. But when you set the tone of stuff outside of football, that's something that somebody's going to have to match with FSU, and I think they nailed it this weekend. That doesn't mean they're going to get them, but I think they nailed it, and it went a little bit, probably considerably higher than the impressions of what I thought would be coming out of this visit.
Hey, man, it's all you can really ask for when you're going up against a kid that's in Louisiana, and LSU is always heavily involved in the mix. That was 4 guys. There was 6 official visits. Red Morgan, Jaquavius, and Marshall. They can find that all over on the PRB, I would assume, Michael. You want to leave some meat on the bone, just maybe throw in just a nugget or 2 on those guys, and so that we don't give the entire milk away for free.
Yeah, I would say Jaquavius is I would just say that it looks like FSU's in a good spot there after this visit. I will leave it at that. The other one you can read on. Both of them, I think, certainly there's interest. Now, will they push with everything they have? Not sure yet on Marshall, but I'd say with Morgan, I see a strength of how much they covet him. So, but I will have a wrap on all these guys a little bit later. I'm going to do a little more, make a few more phone calls, make sure I get everything lined up the way I want it, and then I'll give a wrap on all 6 of these guys. And then certainly we start camp week this week. I think there's going to be some big visitors over there. Landon Thomas is going to be back on campus. Could be a few more that I'm waiting to confirm that will be on campus that aren't committed, that are certainly what I consider the elite of the elite. So I'm just waiting to confirm a few names. So we'll have that coming up. So that's what's coming up on Warchant. By the way, if you haven't seen, go to Warchant today, guys. All 6 official visitors, I think we have updates on and features on. So you want to check that out. It's a lot of good stuff on there, and I'll have more later with a wrap.
$1 from now up until kickoff, or 50% off for an entire year. We're giving you options. We're giving you value. That's all over warchant.com. Michael with up to the minute updates, along with Matt Lacer over on the premium recruiting board. You know you want it. Treat yourself. Michael, thanks for doing this. We appreciate it.
You got it.
MyBookie.ag, promo code Warchant. That gets you an instant cash deposit bonus when you sign up for the first time over at MyBookie.ag. And looks like some of our Florida State brethren have gone ahead and hopped on because odds tightening up slightly for Florida State. I think last week it was plus 2150 for the Noles to win it all. Now it's tightened up a little bit to plus 2,000, which actually just means that they're 20 to 1. I don't know why they just want to do, plus 20 or something, but I don't get into the specifics on all this. Florida State, 20 to 1 odds to win the national title. So that means if you put $1 down, you could win $20. If you got really bold and you put $100 down, you could win $2,000 American dollars. And we've been gassing them up for like weeks, months now. So why wouldn't you go ahead and catch the fever, everybody? You can bet on anything, anytime, anywhere over at mybookie.ag. There's even like a political tab at the bottom. Democratic nominee odds, Republican nominee odds. Who's going to win it overall? It's amazing. It's amazing. Mark Cuban, plus 11,000 to be the next president. I don't know. Take a flyer, guys. Who knows? And gals. MyBookie.ag. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere. Use that promo code Warchant for your instant cash deposit bonus. Corey, I think I might finally cut the cord, maybe. Starting to, like, the promotional plan I had with Xfinity here in Tallahassee is, like, expired. So now my bill is, like, really expensive. So I might have to do this whole thing getting subscriptions like, Hulu, Netflix, or whatever. Even if I had Netflix, I don't know if I would watch. Are you going to watch the documentary they're doing on the Florida Gators under the Urban Meyer era? I don't know if it's a multi-part series or just a one-banger, but I guess I'm just going to talk about the heyday, with Timmy and Aaron and Percy and all the gang,
Probably. I think I would make time to watch that. It's going to be fascinating, right? If it's done well. I feel like I'll know 20 minutes in whether I'm going to watch the whole thing or not. If it's a bunch of Tebow, like all Tebow, probably not. But if it's Tebow mixed with, who are the brothers? The Pouncey twins. Yeah. And then there's obviously the Aaron Hernandez angle. Mm-hmm. Chris Rainey. If they make it realistic to who Urban Meyer is, like I know people listening to this, there are a lot of people that have a lot of ill will towards Tim Tebow, and got tired of talking about him. Got tired of hearing about him incessantly. I get it, but I think he's probably a good person, right? I don't think that's a crazy hot take to think that Tim Tebow is a good person. Yeah. I think Urban Meyer is one of the worst people that's ever lived. And I hope that juxtaposition is part of the documentary.
I wonder if the speech after the Ole Miss game, like, when are we going to hear that? I think, like, will that be part of the opening credits? Like, when they just talk about everything, like they have, like, splice in little bits of, like Aaron Hernandez news coverage, like charged with murder. And then it cuts to, like, Tebow. Yeah. You will never see a team play as hard as we're going to play the rest of the year. And then it cuts to, like, something else, another headline, Tony Joyner kills his girlfriend. And then it goes, I got all these visions in my head. I hope that spring the thunder. If you're going to do a show on this, I hope it's not going to be like, Tim the Saint trying to keep everybody on the straight and narrow as they were chasing, glory. It's like,
well, he struggled. He didn't do well if that was his job to keep him on the straight and narrow. But also, I hope they talked to a few of the Gators that are like, man, we thought that was the corniest stuff we'd ever seen. That didn't do anything for us.
Yeah.
That guy wasn't our leader. He was just an incredible college football player that nobody could tackle. But it wasn't like we would run behind him into a fire. I've just never gotten that impression that I just think it was an incredibly talented football team that played hard and all that. But I don't know that Tebow was their knight in shining armor that led them into battle. I just think they all happen to be really good at what they did, and he just happened to be a goofball that spouted off at a podium. That's all. I could be wrong though. Maybe when they talked to him, they were like, "Yeah, he was the big brother I never had."
Hey, it is June. It's camp season. We'll have coverage of that stuff every weekend, probably over on Warchant.com. But before we get to the weekends, I think we're going to start rolling out some preseason top 40, Corey.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
the signal went out. The signal went out the other day. I don't.
Yep.
Are we dropping one here today on Monday? Are we going like 40 through 30 on the website? I don't want to jump the gun, or maybe we should just kind of broadly talk about it instead of going through our top 40. I can say this, another hot take. This is the most fun I've had doing a top 40 since being a member of Warchant.com's employment full time. There were some real. Here's the thing. I'll just make a list 1 to 40, and then I just start plugging in names, obviously.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, I forgot this guy. And then I'm like,
Yep.
and then and then it's like, do I want and to be able to go in there and delete it and then move all the numbers? So I almost kind of paint myself into a little bit of a corner. I feel good about my list on the whole. I didn't get an email from Gene saying, are you on drugs? Did you forget this guy? So that fear has been alleviated. What do you have you started to put pen to pad or finger to keyboard on your top 40?
As we're talking now, no. But,
Okay.
I have an idea. Jordan Travis will be high. Jared Verse will be high. But you've done it, right?
I have.
So I wanted to know where you put, let me just think of someone. Where did you put Toa Feely?
Man, that was a big one. I wanted to zag almost. I wanted to be the guy that was going to pick Keziah Holmes and then have Keziah Holmes have a big season. Like, yeah, look at me. I picked him. But I'm like, man, where am I going to fit Lawrence Toa Feely in here? I've got him at 22nd.
Okay. All right. I'll probably have him around there too. Maybe a little lower than that. But I think, again, when you're talking about a guy that has well over 1,000 yards of total offense in his career and has made some really big plays for your program, that he's that low, quote unquote, low in quotes, that just tells you what kind of talent pool you're getting to rank now. Yeah. 3 years ago, Toa Feely would have been like 9 or 8. And now, this version of Toa Feely, he obviously wasn't back then, but and now he's playing pretty well, and he's 22nd, and he probably might be lower than that for me. I don't know though. Second string, I don't know. Really don't know.
You'll see, man. It's tricky, man. In my head, you've always been a little bit more bullish on what Lawrence can be than I just think he's going to get so few opportunities. But your kind of point is that when he does get those opportunities, he seems to make a really big impact with them, and he can just do so many different things. So that was kind of, and I'm like, I can't put him that low on my list. I don't want to be the guy that's going to get pointed out by, I put Toa Feely the lowest, and maybe he ends up being the second best running back on here. I don't want to do a whole bunch of spoilers until we start dropping the list here, but do you foresee putting Destin Hill on your top 40?
No, I don't. Only because, buddy, you got to earn it to get on Corey Clark's top 40. I'm not going on a wing and a prayer in some huddle film from 4 years ago. I want to see the real thing. I want to see it up close. Now, if we do it again, if we do like a re-ranking, which we probably should, in the middle of August or like the week of the LSU game, where we've seen these guys all practice for 3 weeks, I might absolutely change my tune. But no, I do not foresee him being on there because I don't think I would rank him ahead of Portier, Keon Coleman, obviously Johnny Wilson, probably not Winston Wright. So maybe not Ja'Kai Douglas. So I don't know. Is the 6th receiver on this team worthy of top 40? Probably not. In my book, I'm saying. In my book. But I get it. He might be. I know Ira's bullish on him. Ira might have him in the top 10.
Last spoiler from me. I do not have Winston Wright on my top 40.
Yeah, I don't think that's controversial though, right? Okay. But isn't your thinking the same thinking with me and Destin Hill? Like you haven't seen it.
No, I mean, I forgot what I was watching. I was watching some show, and they're talking about, I think maybe it was like the new some surf documentary, and talking about like, to be elite, you need to practice and perform and play, and go through the motions of being an elite person, like time and time and time again. Like when you take a long layoff, and I guess I'm talking out both sides of my mouth because Destin Hill hasn't played here in a few years, but I don't know, man. Destin Hill, like sitting at home, or he was probably able to train still, like run routes at least. But like, man, Winston Wright was so limited, and I don't know if he's ever going to really get over, like maybe even like the mental block of being what he had to go through. So like and you talk about like seeing it, like, hey man, we were at spring, I did not see anything. So it's like the
I'll
devil.
tell you what, I saw more out of him this spring than I did Destin Hill.
I can't imagine Destin Hill would do less.
Well, he did because he wasn't there. That's all I'm saying. But hey, we hope they both have good season. But I get it. That's the thing. When you get to like the 4th, 5th, and 6th, and the beauty of this, if you're listening to this, is we're not talking about like known commodities.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it's not like we think, okay, all of a sudden this guy is going to take a huge jump. If Winston Wright barely makes the list, if Destin Hill barely makes the list, or if they're on mine or not, it's not because they aren't capable of being like a 40 reception a year guy. Like Winston Wright's proven he can catch 60 in a year. Like he's proven to be a college wide receiver, and Destin Hill might end up being awesome. So that's kind of the fun of it, is even guys that are on the verge or on the cusp of not being in the top 40 are guys that might end up being really good college football players in 2023, or in Destin Hill's case, even 24 or 25. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's not like we're just, it's a wing and a prayer that, oh man, Destin Hill might be good, or Winston Wright, maybe he'll finally figure it out. If he's healthy, Winston Wright is a good college receiver.
Yep. And
Destin Hill has a huge upside. So again, I think that tells you both of those guys would have been on the list 3 years ago, probably in the 20s. Yeah. And now both of them are fighting just to get in the top 40. That's a good sign, right? About where your roster is.
Absolutely. And then one last thing, speaking of the top 40, and again, it'll be up on the website here, I think, throughout the weeks over on warchant.com. So hop on there. If we did do a re-rank, and we mentioned this Saturday at Ira's house, shout out to the big dog, the big homie Irish O'Fell, having a little bit of a barbecue cookout at the crib. Keith Cottrell, punter Hall of Fame, possibly. He and I was like, what would you do if I had? I'm like, I'll give you a vote, man. I'm like, I'll leave a slot open. Let me know who you'd put in, like, in your top 40, or give me some sort of surprise. And he's like, man, I know you guys are going to give me hell because I'm a punter. He's like, I'm a specialist. He's like, but man, I'd have to probably put Ryan Fitzgerald in a list, like the top 15, if we're talking most impactful players. And part of me was thinking about this, Corey, because if we did re-rank last year, like if we had to re-rank the guys and how they performed last year in terms of who had the biggest impact, I mean, a guy that hamstrung you for 4 weeks of the season, that kind of indirectly led to one of the more tough losses you had to absorb last year, was the kicker, because you couldn't trust him, man. Like he was not a highly functioning position player at that spot. So, I mean, he ultimately affected the way they played like 4 or 5 games last year. And that to me is like, shouldn't that be the way we kind of define impact, at least, retrospectively? What did you didn't really agree with that, though?
No, I didn't. I actually missed most of that conversation. I don't disagree. And I don't think I would put him top 15, only because I was thinking about the 2013 team, and I wouldn't put Aguayo in the top 15. And he was great. He didn't miss a kick, did he? Or he missed one, whatever it was in his first year. But what
about the 2014 team, though?
Well, that would have been a little higher. But I think I guess I just look at it. You're going in with a guy that's going to make 65% of his kicks. Maybe he surprises you, right? And he's much better than that. But you know that you don't have a great kicker, and maybe he doesn't even win the job. But so it's the negative and the positive impact. But he did. Well, I mean, what would you have ranked Fitzgerald's impact when we call it the 40 most important players? But where would you have ranked him last year?
Preseason, or
no? After the Oklahoma game.
I mean, top 20. I mean, he's got to be I put him maybe at 20. I get it, but I mean, he made a game-winning field goal, but he also,
he also made a really big kick against Florida after missing a kick against Florida.
Yeah.
But in the second half, he made a really big kick in that game. But I would say, I mean, I don't know if I'd put him in the top 20, but I mean, I'll probably rank him in the top 30 because it's not because of him necessarily. It's an important position, especially when you're talking about what the goals here.
Would you have Tatum Bethune ahead of him?
Yes. Because of the depth of linebacker, you really do need. Because I guess I would say, what's the difference between Ryan Fitzgerald and Keltner? I mean, we don't know. We'd have to see him kick under the lights in big games. But the drop off between Bethune and his backup is much bigger, in my opinion, than Fitzgerald and Keltner. And so that's kind of how I look at it. Like you could get through this season and still accomplish most of your goals, maybe all of them, if Ryan Fitzgerald breaks his leg tomorrow. I don't know that you could if Tatum Bethune did.
All right. Fair.
That's all.
Stay healthy
That's all
out there.
But hey, Ryan, we want Fitzmagic. We want you there. Your last kick was a game winner, my man. He's got more game-winning kicks than anybody in FSU history, I think, Aslan. I'm just going to throw that out there. Fitzmagic's got 2, including one right at the horn to beat Syracuse in 2021 after my incredible back and forth with Norvell that turned the program around. And then he had the one last year, which we kind of took it for granted, I feel like, in that Oklahoma game.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't an automatic, right? That wasn't like a 20-yard field goal. It might have been like after Johnny's catch, it might have been like a 30-yard field goal, but we've seen people miss those field goals. And that was clutch right down the pipe, baby. It's a big kick.
I hate to keep stretching this show out. I don't have the individual spreadsheet from last year, but I do have the top 40 for last year in front of me here.
Okay. All right.
So Fitzgerald was 44th. You know who was in front of him at 43, like missing the cut? Tate Rodemaker.
Oh.
So
who was more important last year to the 10-3 season?
Right. I mean, a guy that came in and stopped the bleeding. And I mean, they were losing. Weren't they losing when he came in the Louisville game?
Yep. They were losing at halftime.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where we'd put him. But it's wild. I mean, Malcolm Ray was 29th on that list. DJ Lundy was 33rd on this list.
I think it all depends on doesn't it depend on your outlook on how to do these lists? Like my outlook is kind of what I just did. Like, can you afford to lose this person? What happens to the team if he gets hurt, if he doesn't play? With Fitzgerald, you don't lose a ton, I don't think, because the backup is solid-ish too. I think, and Fitzgerald has not proven to be an incredible kicker. Now, the other way to look at it is, what if they have a great season? Who's more important? And if you have a kicker that's automatic inside 45 yards when you're trying to chase a championship, so essentially once you get to the other side of the field, you've got points. I mean, that's a huge luxury to have. It's why Florida State ended up in Pasadena playing Oregon that year, because they had the best kicker in the country. So that was my point back then. So the 14 team with Aguayo kicking like that, he was probably one of the, 10 most important people on that team, because they would have lost 3 games without him. Yeah. But I just don't foresee Fitzgerald having that kind of positive impact. Right. And I think his backup's almost as equal.
Yeah. Well, we nailed 1 and 2 last year. We had Jordan and Jamie. And we talk about impacting a game, like direct. That's where I'm coming from. When we talk about this preseason top 40, I always think it's like impacting a game. And you said the positive impact of Ryan Fitzgerald. I think you need to also weigh in the sort of the drawbacks of having maybe a kicker that's not going to be able to get things done, or someone that's not reliable in coverage. Like they're for better or worse, they're going to impact the way the outcome of a game plays out. So that's kind of what I ended up using for some of these things. But it's just a fun exercise that we do in June every year. So check it out. All of us are involved.
Here's another one, Aslan. Where did you rank the last spoiler, just for you? I'm not telling you where I'm ranking him. We don't know where everybody else is ranking him or where he stands. Where did you rank Fabian Lovett?
Top 15.
Okay. Where did you rank him last year?
Let's see here.
What was he ranked last year?
I don't have it on the sheet, but Fabian was 5th, and apparently 5 people voted him at number 5. Gene, put him at number 10. Gene was the holdout, if you will. He put him at the lowest on the list.
So my point being, Fabian should be better than he was this time last year, right? He's older, he's bigger.
Yeah.
Theoretically, hopefully stronger. And he was good when he played at the beginning of the season until he got hurt, and then obviously we saw what happened. That was a huge impact, by the way. But
exactly.
The point being, I don't think it's crazy that Fabian Lovett is might be and probably will be outside the top 10 this year. Because of the influx of talent is all. That again, I think that's what I draw away from this project that we do every year is, man, 3 years ago it was a chore. Travis J, where are we going to put him? 19, first, 26, who knows? And now you're talking about a guy like Fabian Lovett, who has proven to be not only a solid college football player, but at times dominant as a defensive tackle when he's healthy, like almost up to the point of unblockability. And he might even make the top 10. Because of everybody else you brought in and everybody else you've returned. Just again, it's cool. It's cool to do this to do this now when this series now when maybe the last few years it wasn't as fun or easy. Yeah. I guess it's not easy. It's harder in a different way, but it's a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Thanks, per usual. So check that out again. Everybody's involved in this. Gene, Tom, Jeff, Ira, myself, Corey. So, and Gene tabulates all this, and it's not fun. Trying to rank 40 dudes when you're getting 7 different ballots or whatever, but he does it every year. So it's his baby. Check it out. Click on it. Watch the videos. We'll start cranking those out here this week, and it'll be over on warchant.com. So that's a wrap for us, Corey. We'll be back tomorrow, though, because we're going to have to do a wrap-up of the softball game.
I thought you said there was a question we were supposed to answer.
Oh, yeah. Which I don't have the verbatim in front of me here, but our guy, I think his name is Scotty Wood. And I think he was asking, he was, first off, he loved the show, but he was upset that we opened up the wound that was the 2000 BCS National Championship game. And he was wondering, had Sebastian Janikowski not left to go to the NFL and stuck around, would things have worked out different that year for Florida State?
Yeah, because you win the Miami game. And I think you beat Miami, then Miami has no claim to a national title because that would have been their second loss. Maybe it even changes up I probably wouldn't have changed up the matchup. I still think you're playing Oklahoma. But there's not as much maybe added pressure that if you lose. I guess Miami didn't win either because Oklahoma ended up winning the national championship. So you kept Miami from winning it. But there was all that drama and controversy about who should be playing and should it be Miami and Oklahoma because they had the same record as Florida State and Florida State lost to them. But then Washington was 11-1 and Washington beat Miami. So that argument didn't really hold water, blah, blah, blah. I just think it made it a lot more controversial than if you had Janikowski. Not only do you probably beat Miami comfortably that afternoon, quite honestly. Like you missed a couple of field goals. You went for it on 4th down when if you had a good kicker you trusted, you wouldn't have a couple of times. You probably win that game by, 10 points. If you had a one of the all-time great kickers instead of, who they were running out there. But also maybe you win the Oklahoma game. I don't remember enough about it. I guess I've tried to just erase it from my memory. I make things up about the game now. Yeah. But I assume they got deep enough at times where a 46-yard field goal just to get some points would have been something they did. But knowing they couldn't trust that or have that in their bag, they would go for it or call plays differently. So I feel like that would have been a huge difference to have a weapon like that.
Yeah, he was saying, would he have been worth 4 field goals and a 14-13 win over Oklahoma to make us back-to-back and 3-time national champions at that point? I remember Cimarelli just chunking one so bad in the first half. I mean, like complete golf shot divot. Great human being, I'm sure, Brett Cimarelli. But like, I remember watching that. And everybody just like the audible gasp of horror in the room of like all my buddies of like, oh my gosh, like we are in really, really, really big trouble now. And if you had Janikowski out there, I'd been like, all right, you guys need a beer. I'm going to grab a beer while we get 3 points on the board real quick. Like it just would have changed a lot.
Well, you know what? You didn't have them.
It didn't. We didn't.
You didn't have them. You almost had them, but you didn't have them. I was trying to look to see. I'm looking at the box score right now. I know nobody cares about this, but I am genuinely curious about the field goals. He missed a 30-yarder.
Yep,
a 30-yarder. But what maybe changes the game, Aslan?
Yeah,
just having some points on the board would have maybe changed the game. And
can you see 4th down conversions? Can you see like how many fourth downs they went for?
I can. Hold on just 1 second. They were 0 of 2.
Okay.
So I think they went for one early in the second half, and that's the one where I think it might have been Robert Morgan drops one kind of diving in the end zone that would have been a touchdown that kind of goes through his arms. I think that was a fourth down play. Then again, I think if you have Janikowski and you're in a one-possession game, you're probably kicking the field goal there. But again, it just changes the way you as we saw in Raleigh this year and against Wake the week before that. When you have a kicker you don't trust at all, it changes everything about the way you call a game and the way you coach a game. And so that's what happened against Oklahoma. So, yes, everybody always brings up Snoop not being there, and that certainly was a big deal because he was an incredible receiver that year. But Janikowski leaving early hurt too.
I mean, Florida State punted 10 times in that
Yes.
game. I wonder how many of those could have been. I wonder how many of those were like, let's coffin corner pin them.
Yeah.
And how many of them could have been like 50-yard Sebastian Janikowski field goals, But, hey, we got the third one. Just took a little bit longer. The whole thing of threes, 93, 2013, 2023, we're making it a thing now, So 2000 would have, put a fly in the ointment on that. So
Keith Cottrell, man, he got his money's worth. He must have broken a huge sweat in that game. 10 punts, and I'm looking at it. I'm just going to read the first 4 punts. He had a 26-yard punt to the Oklahoma 16, and then Florida State got a kick catching interference, so that didn't work out. But then his next punt was 52 yards. Then the next punt after that was 47 yards.
All right.
And then the next punt after that was 46 yards.
All right,
All right, Keith.
All right, yeah.
Bombs away, man. They didn't have to. They had a weapon at punter. I wonder if he probably got the game ball afterwards. Lord knows nobody else on the offense did. And I hope he punted it into Mark Richt's face. Said, "Enjoy Athens, traitor."
Tell everybody you're kidding, Corey.
Of course they know I'm kidding. They've listened to this show long enough.
All right, that's a wrap for us. We'll be back with a show tomorrow, folks, wrapping up softball and maybe disclosing our picks on the
Hey, I did want to say one thing real quick, Aslan. I know we're done. I feel like I concentrated too much on the negative things that the Florida State softball team did in that game. But the great teams, the great programs make those types of plays that Josie Muffley made. I mean, look, that was not an automatic play. She's a great athlete and a great shortstop. She leaps as high as she possibly can to snare that thing and then makes the heads-up play to throw to second. And that's what good teams do. They find ways to make great plays when it matters. They find ways to step up when everything's on the line. And they find ways to get a W when they don't play their best. Yes. And that's what Josie Muffley did. So congrats to her. Flaherty had a couple of big hits. And stole a big base for that insurance run. Yeah, man, they did enough little things well, and they're certainly more than talented enough that even if they don't play their best, they can still win a game like that.
Mm-hmm. Survive in advance against Florida State back in action tonight, 7:00 on ESPN in the national semifinal. That's the way it works. It's awesome. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for being here. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. 93.3 FM, as well as Warchant TV. That's our YouTube channel. Hit the thumbs up on the way out if you could. We'd appreciate it. 5-star rating review. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.